This is Honest Neighbour, a podcast about real estate, Oxford County, and everything in between.
Welcome to the Honest Neighbour podcast, a podcast about real estate, Oxford County, and everything in between. I'm Kelly Byers. And
Hi, Ben, Sage, broker, Remax AB Realty.
Neil. No, just kidding. Neil Kershaw. Broker, Remax AB.
Oh my God. What are we going to talk about today, guys? What's on your mind, Neil? It's a loaded question.
It is. It's just, my brain is full of just work problems at the moment, so I'm probably not.
Can we help you with any of those work problems, Neil?
No, because they're people problems.
Okay, I got an idea for this podcast. Why are we doing a podcast?
Fine.
Oh, okay, you don't have to
No,
do
that's
that.
a good
It was
one.
just a suggestion.
Oh, no, I
Because
think
we
that's a
are
good one.
demystifying the world of real estate.
Is that what it is?
Demystifying. That's a big word, Neil.
Oh, is
Real
it?
estate has survived a long time on self-mystification.
It has.
Right?
It has. It truly has. And there are a lot of, we're going to pull back the cover. We're going to unsheath this real estate.
Are we, though?
I don't know. Maybe not.
Close enough to your mic.
I think we're going to overly complicate some things.
Probably.
Well, I felt that why are we doing a podcast?
Fine, Neil, why are we doing a podcast?
I don't know, but I want to talk about people who wear white tube socks. Oh, wait, Kelly.
Nobody can see my feet today.
There's heels
Neil.
in those socks, and they're
okay.
short. Can tube socks be
They're
short?
like, they're like little
Oh, they're
sport
ankle socks.
Yeah,
Oh, okay,
they're not
sorry.
tube socks. But now I'm going to get tube socks.
I know.
I'm going to wear
That's
them.
how
I was at a
wore
party
for
once at
bother
81
you.
Perry Street in Woodstock, which used to be a bed and breakfast. The
Can
Dunhams used to live there.
Okay.
And Jason Dunham,
Okay.
at one of Pat and Mark's parties, ran around, and everyone with white socks, he held them down and pulled up their socks and cut the toes off of them. It's interesting.
I'm really glad I didn't grow up in Woodstock so that any of my high school
Oh, yeah.
stories do not exist.
You get to tell
in
us the
Woodstock
stories that you want
that
us to
I want
know.
you
Yeah.
to know. You
Lucky.
only hear about, and like probably my friends from high school will listen to this podcast because they're very excited about it, actually.
What, really?
And
cool.
they will be listening saying, oh my God, how do I contact Ben
Yeah.
and Neil?
Oh, that's
to tell
true.
them
You know what? We should
the
actually set up
actual stories.
We should set up like an email address or something.
We do have an email address, actually. It's
because we have an Instagram, but it's you run it, so you could just totally filter.
All I'm
anything
going to
that comes
say
in.
is pinecone, strawberry, cowboy tattoo lady, please call us with stories about Kelly. We want to
having-
hear
Is this
those
what-
Perth County tales.
Oh my God.
I'm having drinks and dinner with her Wednesday at 4:30 at Brick House if you'd like to come.
Oh no!
You're invited.
I just need to get tales.
We do have an email address though. It's thehonestneighbor@gmail.com.
Sweet.
So if anybody wanted to email us, they
And
can
that's
email
Canadian
us at,
neighbor. It has a U.
Yeah,
it's not
it does have a U.
OR.
The
Oh, it
honest
is.
neighbor at
Good.
podcast. The honest neighbor at gmail.com. And
Do you know
we do
what?
have
For
an
all of our
Instagram.
American listeners, maybe we should get another email address that doesn't have a U in it.
So they can't screw it up.
But extra points if you email us and tell us a Kelly story.
Yeah,
Tell us a
absolutely.
tale of when the Kipper roamed
Once we have
free.
swag, you can have some swag.
I have ordered us swag.
No, you didn't.
I did. I ordered us coffee mugs.
Really?
Yeah, from a girl in town that makes coffee mugs. I'll
That's
show you.
incredible.
Yeah, but they're
That
not in
is.
yet. So we do have coffee mugs.
So why
coming.
are we doing this?
Nice.
Okay, can I'll circle back.
Yeah,
a
good
little
idea.
bit. I felt that we were having meetings, like the three of us plus Pam would have meetings and just kind of chatting about
Chew the fat.
and little different issues we're having in real estate and kind of problem solving and brainstorming, and some of the material that came out of that I felt
Valuable.
was very interesting. And
I agree.
yeah,
I thought
and
it
it
was-
just sort of segued into this, like, why don't we stick mics and cameras up and
So
see if we can create any value for anybody.
I really thought the conversations we had were valuable to me as a realtor, but would be also very interesting for the average consumer, because I think most realtors get on their Instagram or Facebook or whatever, and they really sugarcoat what's actually happening, or
You
they don't
don't
have hard
say.
conversations.
Yeah.
We talked about the mortgage example recently. Ben saw,
You're gonna
I'll bring it
hang
up.
me out
Ben
to
saw a
dry.
post by another realtor in Woodstock, and it basically
It
just
was by a mortgage broker, but
shared by a
co-branded
realtor,
with
right.
another realtor.
And basically it shared, the difference in your purchasing power right now. But we noticed that they weren't using factually correct information. So they took purchase prices from a year ago versus now, but then their mortgage rates were only from like 2 months ago versus now. And so it really misled the consumer as to what the situation actually looks like. And we had a conversation via text message for probably 2 hours about how detrimental that
For
is.
me, that
Well, it's
lasted
very
for,
it's disingenuous, really.
for me, that lasted for 2 days. I woke up the next morning and I was still enraged. See, there's
Yeah.
the Aries thing again.
Yeah,
Okay,
there
that's right.
was. You
Just
were
like-
enraged.
I even
Yeah.
text a couple of friends and colleagues and industry people about it, and everybody was like, "Yeah, it's bullshit."
Yeah.
I saw the numbers and it painted a rosy picture of how, it's actually not so bad. Yeah, rates are up like crazy, but it's not so bad. Here's how your payment might actually be lower. And it was 100% bullshit.
Yeah. It was
100% bullshit.
Yeah.
The only thing that was true on that scenario was the balance at maturity, which you guys would know, but listener might not know, is how much do you owe after your term, which in Canada is like 2, 3, 5 years, right?
Yeah.
So the only thing that was accurate on that thing was what the balance would be less now. And that's largely because your purchase price is 200 plus K less than it was 12
Right.
months ago. It's not because of the rates.
I thought it was interesting, though, how quick both of you were to recognize that post was A, false, B, misleading, and then C, figure out how to correct that. And I do think that's the kind of information people need.
I did the exact scenario, and I'm like, yeah, your payments are, what was it? I pasted you guys like $800 more a month under with the same variables. Like if you don't squeeze the numbers in a certain way, that's what you end up with. And yeah, it is more expensive to carry a house right now. Where do you save money right now, though?
Where do you save money right now?
Yeah, if you buy a house. You have lower down payment requirements.
Yep.
You have lower land transfer taxes because the purchase prices are way down.
Yep.
Anywhere else? Is there anywhere else that we can say, this is so better now than it was a year ago if you're buying a house?
I think it's better for someone who doesn't require a significant amount of financing because prices are down. So if you were mostly paying in cash for your house, great, because you're not impacted by the rate so much and you can get a bargain right now.
Do you think that sellers are, more willing to be adaptable?
They're
to
way
lower
more
prices?
valuable.
If you've got like all cash, or you can tell the seller like we only need a mortgage on 20% of the purchase, kind of thing. Like, does that make a difference?
They should be.
Yeah.
I don't know if they are, but they should be.
I
I mean, I know if I was selling my house right now and if I had 2 offers on the table, what a unicorn.
You'd be the best agent in Woodstock.
If I did have 2 offers on the table and one of them did not require significant financing, I would absolutely consider that one more than the other one, because so many things can, they shouldn't go wrong between the offer and closing, but they can go wrong between the offer and closing.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I would, for me, that would be valuable. But what about you, Neil?
Is there any other ways that it's better now to buy a house?
I think for clients that are quite analytical and have an inability to jump.
So
I think it's
everyone
good.
right now?
Yeah, they can actually take their time and make a balanced decision on what they're actually walking into.
As a buyer.
Yeah.
You don't have to, because I'm as a realtor, I do not like to push unless it's something that they're absolutely not seeing from a business perspective or something. I'm not, because I don't like when people push me.
Yeah.
So, yeah, realistically though, that's been a kind of a bit of a saving grace, is now we can sit down with our clients and say, hey, you got time to think about it. It's not like it's going to be gone in 11 hours. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So,
That was crazy last year, right? Like if houses
And
weren't
years ago.
holding offers and strictly holding them, like you couldn't get in the door. They would sell before you could even make an appointment.
Well, and that's,
sorry, your buyer has a job. They can't make it till tomorrow at 6. Yet I could have sold it 10 times between now and then.
well, and that's the thing, right? It's really sort of unfortunate though and this is what I find, and although those markets are, some people really thrive in markets that run that rampant, but I don't know. For me, I find that when markets get moving that fast, you'd think with that much business going on that there would be enough business for everybody and everybody would play fair and whatever. But I think that realistically, unfortunately, a lot of shady stuff sort of happens when the market is moving that quickly, and people cannot, it's moving so fast that people can't catch it, and they just
absolutely.
and they're just unaware that. Yeah. Anyways,
We also saw a lot of shady things happen.
Absolutely.
It's I don't think what most consumers realize is, for the agents that are ethical seeing other realtors do shady things is probably my biggest pet peeve in real estate, because it's just bad for the entire industry as a whole, which
you hate that?
I don't want.
Yeah.
But you see how it negatively impacts consumers, and not just, for example, I had a couple of clients who lost last year or maybe 2021 in multiple offers where I knew something shady happened on the listing side. Couldn't prove it, but I knew it.
Yeah.
And I didn't feel just bad for my clients who lost that property. I felt bad even for the clients who got the property, knowing that their agent pulled probably illegal things to make that happen. That helps nobody.
No.
Well, and realistically, you don't have to be a rocket scientist. You look at your own business and say, oh, well, I make 20% or 11% or 15% double ending deals. You have some agents in a market like that were double ending 60% of their deals.
Yeah.
And that's an impossible number.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's not statistically likely to happen without some magic happening.
Absolutely. A little finagling.
Yeah.
I double end almost zero.
Yeah, I don't double
literally
end
like
very
maybe
often.
once or twice in a year.
Well, that was one of the beautiful things about working with my former teammate Janice, is that people call you directly about your own listings all the time. They may have their own agents, they may not. That's part of our qualifying process. But it was so nice. I hate working with buyers on my own listings because I already represent that seller, right?
Yeah.
So it was so nice to say, okay, thank you for calling. You've answered my 4 or 5 questions that I have for you. I'm going to have my teammate Janice call you back because I really don't want to represent both the seller and the buyer for this transaction. On paper, it's the same because we know that we bind the brokerage. You're not an individual agent representing a client. It's the brokerage, but it still feels like there's like a buffer between, even though we were teammates and all that, like we regularly didn't have deals come together because we're both working for our own parties. And
right.
It was just such a nice way to deal with things. And I kind of have that a little bit with you guys and a little bit with other agents in our office too.
That, we've done that.
Yeah, like I don't love when someone calls me directly. Yeah, I'm friendly, polite, and honest with the answers I give them, but like I don't love selling my own listings. I'd really rather negotiate with another professional than be the buffer between a buyer and a seller.
I will say it's been kind of refreshing for me in the sense that coming from a different brokerage to Remax now, there's a few agents in my old brokerage who are newer agents who have adopted that mindset right from the beginning.
They don't double
where
end.
They don't double end right since the beginning, or they make an effort not to. And I found that actually very refreshing.
That's nice.
Because it's strange. People get their backs up about it, and everyone can have their own opinions on how they feel. It's a weird hack mentality for some reason with real estate agents if you don't agree with the status quo. But when I was the president of the Woodstock Real Estate Board, and we were actually having that discussion about double ending. It was a huge issue at the time at Queen's Park. And literally, I had to go into meetings with the president of AREA and stuff like that. And my membership, 167 agents at the time, who I had to work for and I had to listen to, basically the consensus was that they wanted double ending. They wanted double ending to maintain. They didn't want to do anything like British Columbia did with restrictions on double ending. And that was what they wanted. I didn't agree necessarily with the group of people I was representing, but I am their voice. Yeah. So that's what I had to go in and ask for. Yeah. But at the same time, everybody has to be comfortable with how they do it. So
should we clarify what double ending is for people that don't actually know what that means?
Kelly, give us the 30-second rundown of representation and multiple representation.
Double ending is the term double ending just means, so for example, I list a house with, seller Smith, and then I get a call from a buyer that doesn't have their own agent who wants to offer on the property, and I bring the offer as well. So I'm double ending the property. I'm doing both the purchase and the sale, and essentially I'm being paid for the purchase and the sale. So double ending is lucrative from a realtor perspective because you have the potential to make twice as much money as you would in a normal transaction.
But you can see how easily it would
it's horrible.
It could be to not do the right thing. Right?
I think it's also important to say, though, and what people don't realize when an agent double ends or has multiple representation, they are stripped of many of their abilities. So many of their jobs that they're supposed to be doing for you are taken away. Their ability to advise on certain things.
Yep. So the other thing, too, is agents need to be super clear with their clients and prospective clients about what those limitations are.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, because
are you able to recite those right now without homework?
I can do some of them. You can't disclose what the seller is willing to accept unless given in writing. You can't say you should not advise what the buyer can or should offer.
Yeah.
What the seller should accept.
The reason for sale.
Motivation.
Motivation for sale. I think that even some of the terms you can't.
No, you can't do any of the terms of any offer, but that doesn't matter. Multiple representation.
Sorry, disclosing terms to other parties.
Any offer, yeah. Yeah. Sorry, I thought you meant like verbatim. I thought you were
no, not like clause 7 or whatever it is.
So, do either of you think the right to double end should be taken away from realtors?
I think if people misuse it, they should be taken away.
Well, so we all kind of agree. I think that the fines for misbehavior are like laughable.
Yes.
Yeah. Like not fines, but like punishment for misbehavior is laughable. I think the rules that exist are wise, and they're there for a reason. They don't. The whole idea is to not benefit one party over the other party. The agent kind of becomes an intermediary, less guidance, but you do give up some of your rights as a buyer and seller if you have an agent in multiple representation, for sure. But the weird thing about multiple rep is because brokerage is agent, not individual is agent, it doesn't even matter if the agent who represents the other party is in an office that's 25 kilometers away from you that happens to be owned by your broker.
Yep.
You're still in multiple representation.
Yeah, that part of it's a little wonky.
I do think that a total reform of representation would be wise, where the seller or buyer actually binds the individual rather than the brokerage.
I would agree.
And then we could have you and I do a deal where there is no restriction on what we can say and do in terms of representation.
Yep, I'd agree with that.
And we can both do our jobs properly. But that's a wholesale change.
They haven't done a change like that since, because I remember back when the representation agreements used to be buyer agency agreements, and that's what they were actually called. They were called buyer agency, not buyer representation.
Yeah. Oh, that's before me. That's got to be what, 2006? 04? Okay, yeah. That BRA was brand new when I started in 2007.
Oh, okay,
okay. Yeah, so I was always trained on buyer representation.
Oh, okay. I was buyer agency.
I was buyer representation too. I was trained a couple of years after. When were you licensed?
07.
Okay, I was 2010.
I was 2004.
2004.
Oh, veteran.
18
I was right before the Toyota bump.
So what are you going to do for your 20th
anniversary? Do you ride
anniversary?
that wave? Was that a crazy time?
It was a massive transition for me to come from selling electronics. It made life easy because I walked into a market that was already
So explain what happened, because not everybody may know what happened.
So in 2004, the rumor mill started going around that Toyota was going to be possibly opening up a facility here, and once that rumor mill started going, we started seeing the market really sort of pick up, and we saw 2 bumps, just kind of, sort of in a strange sort of way. It peaked right before they announced. Like, it went up and up and up, but nothing crazy, and then they announced, and then the same houses that had sold could all again resell. Like, it did jump a little bit. They wouldn't make the money that they were making in 2017 and 2020, because at the time, those houses, $600,000 houses, were $215,000. But, you'd see a house on like Sloane Street, a bungalow that was, $200,000, and it sold for $189,000 or something, and then 6 months later, it probably could have got $250,000 or $260,000.
So what were you thinking that year that they announced, or the whole process? What was the run up in value then? Do you remember? Even if ballpark.
I don't remember that. Just because I was still getting my feet wet, and it was I was still transitioning out of. I didn't stay in electronic sales for a long time after, but there was about a 6-month period where when I jumped into real estate, I kind of got my feet wet. So I didn't have the immersiveness that I have now as a full-time.
I remember I knew then, but I don't. Like back in 08, 09, I knew what the bump was. I feel like it was in the 14-15% range over a year.
I want to guess somewhere in that, because at the time I was, and this is weird that I remember it based on this, but because when I used to, there's some houses in Woodstock that have wood foundations on streets. Mm-hmm. And one of the interesting things I found when I looked at the numbers from the increase from Toyota, I noticed that any of the properties that had the wood foundations had a significantly less bump than the rest of the market. Yeah.
Okay.
Because it was at the time I had a lot of properties where I had been dealing in and around the Ken Robert Anderson area for a bit of time. And so I was really honed in on those numbers, and that surprised me because I was just like, wow, you could see there was a noticeable difference based solely on the opinion of what the buyer viewed that quality as.
Interesting.
So that's now 17 years ago?
Yeah.
16 years ago?
So it'd be interesting to see if there still was.
And they're still standing. And I'm not hearing people experiencing major problems with those houses. So now, how old are those houses? Are they 35 years old now?
But they've got, and you look at the wood foundations, I think the whole thing was they got 100-year life or something like that on them. Because they use them in the West Coast quite often.
I was going to say, they use them in BC all the time.
Yeah.
It's very common.
It just down here, they did get the bad rap. But I honestly do also believe, though, that if we compare the numbers, compared to what increases have gone on a regular house on that street with a concrete foundation, I would bet that there's still going to be some disparity based on construction style.
The wood foundation houses have appreciated less quickly than more traditional construction.
So I think we need to do a fact check on this.
I don't think. Sorry. I don't know necessarily that they've appreciated less quickly.
It's not a guarantee. It was just a theory, right?
I just think that their initial bump was less, and so I'm not saying they go up at the slower rate, but they start at a lower rate, so they're going to end up. I don't think they're going to have the same value.
But I always figured they were 30 or 40K, and this was totally unresearched, just an opinion. 30 or 40K under what a similar house would be that had a concrete or block.
Something in there.
We're going to look this up, and we're going to report back on another episode.
Are you mentally taking notes?
Are you going to be the one who crunches those numbers?
I do think it's important to come back and see.
I'll be doing all the editing.
I'm
so
really
you have to do
curious.
The numbers.
But I actually agree with you. My gut has always been. Neil is making fun of me right now because I take guitar lessons.
I'm not making fun of you.
He is making fun of me.
I'm making fun of your busy life.
Look, if anybody should make fun of me for taking guitar lessons, it's my guitar instructor.
Oh, no
Shout
way.
out to Greg at Long and McQuaid in Woodstock, who is the most patient
they're gonna have
guitar
to pay for
instructor.
That plug. You can't just name drop like that.
I did in my origin story. Was
That's
that different?
Twice now we've referenced Long and McQuaid.
All this equipment was generously purchased from Long and McQuaid.
Oh my gosh. That is one of my favorite places in Woodstock, though. Look, I stay busy.
Favorite places?
I have a lot of favorite things, Neil. I think that sometime I should do a podcast just on my favorite things because I could talk for months about all my favorite things. I can steal Oprah's idea.
Okay.
These are a few of my favorite things. Like, you're one of my favorite people, but not right now. You're not my favorite people right now. It goes like this.
Yes, it's a roller coaster.
Neil's my favorite. Neil's my least favorite. Neil's my favorite. I'm not talking to you today.
Well, now that we're not friends again, should we wrap this episode up?
We should. So
that was good. Where did we even cover there? That was all over the map.
Everything's all over the map.
Hopefully, listener enjoyed that.
I think the important thing to take from the podcast is, I think our goal is to be honest and transparent and provide value and cut through some of the bull poop that other agents are putting out there right now, because there is a lot of garbage and. Yeah, it's not helpful for the industry.
I have always operated my own business from the perspective of providing, accurate knowledge and letting clients decide.
Yeah,
I agree with that.
Misleading stuff is enraging to me.
I want to be able to sleep at night. You know what I mean? So
really, I don't know. I just probably would never hit go on that. I just if a mortgage broker sent me that rundown. And I took even a cursory glance at it, I would say, this doesn't add up. Like, what's wrong here?
I'd say, did your parents eat a lot of Great Lakes fish?
Oh, no, it's always going to happen to me from having a boat on Lake Erie.
I was just kidding. No,
I'm suddenly going to believe all of these things.
I meant in the 80s during the acid rain era.
Do we have a legal team vetting these podcasts?
Should we have our broker of record review everything?
Yeah.
Sorry, John. Hi, John. We love you.
All right, that's enough for today. Thank you.
Have a good day.
Bye.